Hi everybody! So if you think about it, since the Industrial Revolution and right up to now, we're in the age of steam. Steam is incredibly important, and any of the electricity that you're using, if it's not being generated by renewables, is being generated by steam. If you take a nuclear power station for example, what it does is uses a nuclear reaction to create heat, which it then boils water with to create steam. That steam is fed into a turbine and that's connected to the generator. Oil plants work the same way, so do coal, so do gas. We are producing steam, and steam is incredibly important to us because it's steam that we use to generate electricity. Now traditionally what we do is take a bulk body of water, apply some heat at the base point, and hey presto, boil the water, we get steam. And we can do exactly the same thing with solar thermal as we demonstrated with the solar kettle. That's exactly what we were doing. And of course they do this on a large scale. The large scale uses something called a heliostat. A heliostat is basically a mirror that tracks the sun. They use mirrors to track the sun and focus it at one point, and at that point is a big tub of water, and they use the concentrated power of the sun to boil that water. Concentrated solar power generators using heliostats can reach incredible temperatures. A solar furnace in the Pyrenees in France that can reach 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, and the Spanish use heliostats to generate power in the megawatt range. Of course there are smaller scale replications of this all over YouTube, and you'll see people arranging them in things like the focal point of parabolic mirrors to generate steam. However, it was Rice University that took it one step further. What they did was inject nanoparticles into the water. Now a nanoparticle is anything between 1 and 100 nanometers across, although it's sometimes used for 500 nanometers. But nanoparticles have some very peculiar properties, and one of them is to absorb all of the light, which is why nanoparticles frequently appear black, and then they give that absorbed energy back out as heat. What Rice did was take that, add it to the water and pop it in some sunlight, and even though the ambient around it was 0 degrees centigrade, the water with the nanoparticles was still boiling because of that efficient exchange. They used metal nanoparticles and carbon nanoparticles, so one imagines that graphene would do a very good job as well. They took that, arranged that in a parabolic reflector, and found themselves with an instant steam generator. And of course steam doesn't only get used for power generation, you can use it for sanitation as well. Rice did exactly that with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They created a sanitation system where a single parabolic disc could be used by a family of 4 to sanitize their water. So the direct production of steam and the use of that steam in an engine, of course, is not in itself a particularly new idea. Using the sun and concentrated solar certainly is, but the use of that in steam follows very much the pattern that we're used to in the use of steam for generation. But there is another alternative. There is another kind of heat engine that can be used, and that's the Stirling engine. Now, the Stirling engine is often seen as the poor cousin of the steam engine. It's less energy dense, being the major disadvantage of it. However, it is mechanically simpler, more robust and more tolerant, and much cheaper to maintain and to build. So Stirling engines have an awful lot going for them, and of course with the heat of the sun we can heat air really easily. Heating air has basically two options. One is you can use concentrated solar power, heat up a metal block. That metal block will then heat the air, and that can be used to run a Stirling engine, and there are several prototypes around doing exactly that. And you've guessed it, there are alternatives. You can take a low thermal difference Stirling engine, the kind that runs off the heat of your hand or a hot cup of tea, paint the bottom black, turn it upside down, point it at the sun, and it will run because there's enough temperature difference there to run that Stirling engine. But if you're looking at that kind of thing, you really need to look at Red River College, and I have to take my hat off to them because they created a large-scale flat panel Stirling engine made made from readily available materials. It uses a bellows piston and a cam, and the cam introduces a dwell in the movement of the displacer, because of course what you're trying to do is heat and cool air, and that takes time. In a normal Stirling engine that happens pretty quickly. In Red River College, the dwell allows the air to sit in the space and warm up a bit, or sit in the cold space and cool down a bit, and that makes it very much more efficient. Apart from those two innovations, it works just like any other Stirling engine. So if you think about it, the range of ways of extracting power from the sun are much broader than photovoltaics or simple steam. I mean, we're an inventive lot, aren't we? We can go right the way from cutting-edge nanotechnology and extreme engineering to a place where anybody can actually do it. It's one of those things that, well, I think it's staggering when you think about it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.